What if I told you that when I say, release it, I am not taking from you. I am reaching into the fire to pull you out before the smoke becomes your normal. You have called my instruction cruelty because it feels like separation, but I call it rescue because I can see what you cannot yet see. I can see the slow leak in your peace. I can see the future you keep postponing to keep the past from screaming. I can see the way your hands are clenched so tightly around what you fear losing that you cannot feel me placing anything new inside them. And yes, I know the private tension you do not say out loud. You still love them. You still remember what was good. You still replay the conversations in your mind like prayers you cannot stop praying. You still check the door of your heart to see if they knocked, even when you told yourself you were done. And then you feel guilty for wanting relief, guilty for imagining a life where you are not bracing for the next disappointment, guilty for even considering that letting go could be holy. You have confused grief with disloyalty. You have confused release with hatred. You have assumed that if you step back, it means what you felt was a lie. Listen to me. Your love is not on trial. Your heart is not condemned for being human. But I will not allow your tenderness to become the chain that drags you into places I never wrote for you. I am not asking you to release because I am indifferent. I am asking you to release because I am protective. Because I see what this attachment is doing to your identity when no one is watching. Because I see how you shrink to stay chosen. Because I see how you barter your boundaries for a moment of closeness. Because I see how you call it hope while it quietly consumes your sleep, your focus, your calling, your capacity to love rightly. My command is not theft. It is triage. It is me placing my hand on the wound you keep covering with memories. It is me interrupting the cycle where you keep bleeding and calling it devotion. There are seasons where holding is faith, and there are seasons where holding is fear dressed in sacred language. And you have reached a threshold where what you are calling love is costing you the very peace I gave you as a witness. So here is the question that will haunt you until you let it heal you. Why would I ask you to release someone you still love? Why would I touch the thing you keep protecting? Why would I disrupt what feels familiar, even if it hurts? Because I am not only saving you from them, I am saving you for what is ahead. I am saving your mind for clear hearing. I am saving your heart for clean affection. I am saving your future from being built on an altar of anxiety. And I am not leaving you in the empty space. I am meeting you there with a freedom you have not yet imagined. And I know what happens after you hear me say, let go. Your chest tightens, not because you are rebellious, but because you are exhausted. You have been carrying the weight of what might happen, what should have happened, what you wish you could still fix. You have been holding your breath for so long that peace feels unfamiliar, and unfamiliar feels unsafe. You are not weak because you still reach for your phone at night. You are not faithless because you scroll and scroll as if one more picture, one more timestamp, one more sign will settle the ache. You are not broken because your mind replays the same memories like a song you cannot turn off, like a prayer that keeps changing into a question. You are not unstable because grief comes in waves, sudden and sharp, when you are driving, when you are washing dishes, when you hear a phrase that sounds like them, when you pass a place your heart still associates with hope. You are not ridiculous because you bargain in the dark. If they change, if I wait, if I explain better, if I stay available, if I soften my boundaries, maybe it will be different. And you are not crazy for fearing regret, for fearing that release will become a sentence you can never appeal, for fearing that one day you will look back and say, I let go too soon. But listen to me, because I see the pattern you keep punishing yourself for. You miss them, and then you shame yourself for missing them. You feel the ache, and then you condemn your own heart for having an ache. And that shame does not heal you, it drives you back into the very attachment you are trying to escape. You cling harder, not because you want chains, but because you want relief. You tighten your grip to stop the trembling inside you. You call yourself foolish, and then you look for them again, because even pain can feel better than emptiness when you do not yet know that I am in the emptiness too. Before you condemn your heart, listen. Your pain is speaking, and I am speaking through it. That restlessness, that compulsive checking, that mental rehearsing, that sudden collapse into tears, it is not proof that you are meant to stay. It is proof that something deep has been touched. It is proof that something sacred is at stake. Your peace, your identity, your ability to hear me without static, your future that cannot be built on the shaky ground of constant reassurance. Do not call your attachment failure. Call it information. Call it revelation. Because what you keep calling, "I can't let go," is often your soul confessing, "I have been afraid to be alone with me." What you keep calling love may be your nervous system begging for familiarity. What you keep calling loyalty may be your fear of the empty space where I will rebuild you. And I am not angry at you for being tired. I am the one who counts your tears, the one who knows how human you are. But I will not let your exhaustion make your decisions for you. I will not let shame lead you where my voice is trying to free you. Listen, beloved, the intensity is not your instruction. The intensity is your alarm, and I am already here, translating it into truth. And now I will tell you what you have been afraid to admit, even to yourself. The thing you keep calling love has begun to behave like a cage. Because love, as I designed it, does not require you to disappear to keep it. Love does not demand that you monitor every tone, interpret every silence, and rehearse every conversation as if your peace depends on getting it right. Love gives room to breathe. Love does not punish you with anxiety when you are not in control. Love can stand in the light and still be love. But captivity is different. Captivity asks for constant reassurance. Captivity asks you to stay on watch. Captivity whispers, if you don't check, you will lose them. If you don't respond fast, you will be replaced. If you don't keep proving your worth, you will be abandoned. And you have been obeying that whisper so long that you began to confuse it with devotion. You began to call hypervigilance faithfulness. You began to call self-erasure patience. You began to call the tightness in your chest love, when it was fear wearing love's clothing. Listen to me, beloved, because I am not condemning your tenderness. I am exposing the hidden trade you have been making in the dark. You traded peace for proximity. You traded purpose for proof. You traded faith for constant contact. You have been paying with your sleep, paying with your focus, paying with your clarity just to keep a connection that keeps moving the finish line. One more text, one more explanation, one more chance, one more sign. And every time you receive a little warmth, you call it hope. But then the cold returns, and you scramble again, because the cage always makes you earn what I meant to be free. And this is the line I am drawing with a steady hand. I am not asking you to stop loving. I am asking you to stop bleeding. I am not asking you to become hard. I am asking you to become whole. I am not asking you to forget what was real. I am asking you to stop sacrificing what is sacred just to keep what is familiar. Because when love costs your peace, it is no longer love guiding you. It is bondage. It is attachment that has replaced trust in me. It is a survival strategy, masquerading as romance, as loyalty, as calling. You have been trying to control outcomes because you have been afraid to trust my care. You have been trying to manage their choices because you have been terrified of the empty space. But I do not ask you to carry what was never yours to govern. I do not ask you to tie your identity to someone else's instability. That is not covenant. That is captivity. So hear me clearly. If it is a cage, then letting go is not abandonment. Letting go is leaving the cell. Letting go is stepping out of what has been draining you in the name of love. And when I tell you to release, I am not taking them from you. I am saving you, your peace, your identity, and the future I am preparing. The future that cannot be built while your hands are still bleeding on the bars. And now listen to me, because I am about to rescue you from a lie you have worn like a name. Your anxiety is not random. It is not your personality. It is not proof that you are too much, or too sensitive, or just broken. I am not punishing you with discomfort. I am alerting you. I am putting a warning light on the dashboard of your soul because you keep driving toward what cannot carry you, and you keep calling the shaking normal. You have felt it in your body before you admitted it in your mind. The tightness in your chest when their name appears, the way your stomach drops when the tone changes, the shallow sleep where you wake up already bracing, already rehearsing, already scanning for what went wrong, the obsessive thinking that loops like a prayer without rest. What did I say? What did they mean? What if I lose them? What if I should have tried harder? And you thought this restlessness meant you were in love. You thought the ache meant you were loyal. But I tell you the truth. Your spirit can recognize danger before your mind has the courage to call it danger. Your body has been testifying in the language of anxiety, because your mouth has been afraid to speak the word release. Before you condemn yourself, listen. There is a way the psyche protests when you betray your deeper self. There is a way the inner world revolts when you keep offering your sacredness to what cannot honor it. Even Jung could see it in the human soul that when you live against what is true in you, symptoms rise like messengers. And I tell you, beloved, it is not because you are cursed. It is because you are divided. Your soul protests when you betray your calling. Your nervous system cries out when you keep negotiating with what I already showed you. This is not weakness. This is intelligence. This is the part of you I designed to detect misalignment. Because what you are connected to is pulling you off the path I prepared. Not always through obvious evil, sometimes through subtle erosion. A little compromise here, a little self-abandonment there, a little shrinking to stay chosen. And the further you drift, the louder the alarm becomes. The more you explain yourself, the more anxious you become. The more you chase clarity from them, the more confusion multiplies inside you. That is not because you are failing. That is because you are being warned. So do not label the warning light as your identity. Do not build a home inside a symptom. Anxiety is not the sentence. It is the signal. It is my mercy interrupting your denial. It is me saying, come back to the center. Come back to the version of you that can breathe. Come back to the peace that guards you like a boundary. Come back to alignment, where you do not have to earn calm with constant contact. I am not asking you to become numb. I am asking you to become honest. And if you will stop arguing with the alarm, you will finally hear what it has been saying all along. This direction is costing you more than it is giving you, and I am calling you back before you lose yourself completely. And now, I will touch the place you keep defending with noble words. You keep calling it loyalty. You keep calling it, I'm not the kind of person who gives up. You keep calling it commitment and patience, and I just want to be sure. But listen to me, beloved. What you are clinging to is not only them. It is the terror you feel when you imagine the space they used to occupy going quiet. It is the fear of being alone with your own thoughts. It is the fear that if you release them, no one will choose you again. It is the fear that starting over means you failed, that letting go proves you misread everything, that the time you invested becomes a verdict against you. And because you do not want to face that fear, you keep holding the rope, even when it burns your hands. You are not obsessed with a person as much as you are afraid of the vacuum, afraid of the mornings with no message, afraid of the evenings with no plan, afraid of the sudden stillness where you can no longer blame your unrest on their inconsistency, because then you will have to hear what has been aching underneath it all. The empty space feels like death to you because it sounds like finality, because it exposes how much of your identity became organized around waiting, fixing, proving, hoping. And when that structure collapses, you feel like you will collapse too. But I tell you the truth that will unsettle you and save you. Silence after goodbye is not always death. Often it is the beginning of recreation. Often it is the holy interruption that stops you from pouring your life into a container that cannot hold it. You have mistaken the withdrawal symptoms of attachment for the voice of destiny. You have mistaken the panic of change for a sign you should return. But panic is not prophecy. The shaking is not a command to rebuild the cage. Do not worship what once comforted you. Do not bow to what gave you temporary relief while it quietly trained you to abandon yourself. There are comforts that are not God's, yet you have treated them like God's because they were familiar, because they were immediate, because they quieted the ache for a moment. And when I reach for them, you panic, not because I am cruel, but because you have been using them to avoid the deeper emptiness that only I can fill. Hear me. I can fill what you fear will stay hollow. I am not threatened by the space. I am Lord over it. I do not ask you to release so you can suffer and avoid. I ask you to release so I can meet you where you have been afraid to stand. And yes, it will feel strange at first. The mind will reach for the old pattern like a hand reaching for a railing that is no longer there. You will feel the impulse to check, to scroll, to rehearse, to send one more message just to quiet the craving. But this is how you will know you are healing. You will feel the emptiness, and you will not run from it. You will let it be there without filling it with compromise. You will let the quiet expose what was never supposed to be carried by a human connection. You will let me teach you that your worth does not disappear when someone does. So do not fear the empty space. It is not your enemy. It is the soil. It is the place where I loosen the old roots so I can plant something new. And if you will stop calling fear loyalty, you will finally recognize my leading. I am not taking your life from you. I am returning it. I am clearing ground. I am preparing a season where you will not have to beg for what I have already promised to give you freely. Now listen, because I am about to steady you with something older than your panic and stronger than your memories. There is a reason your heart feels torn between holding and releasing. It is because you are standing at a boundary of seasons, and seasons always feel like grief to the part of you that thought the old chapter would last forever. But I did not design your life to be one long endurance test. I wrote it with rhythms, with beginnings, with endings, with holy transitions that do not ask your permission before they arrive. You have read the words, even if you have not let them read you. There is a time to embrace, and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to keep, and a time to cast away. Ecclesiastes did not say there is a time to keep forever. It did not say there is a time to cling until you lose yourself. It said there is a time, and you have been trying to make a season into a covenant. You have been trying to call always what I only anointed for now. And because you loved what it meant to you, you assumed it must be mine to keep. But beloved, not everything that once held warmth is meant to remain in your hands. Hear me. Holding past its season becomes disobedience dressed as devotion. It looks noble on the outside. It sounds spiritual in your mouth. But inside, it is fear. It is bargaining. It is you trying to control the calendar of your healing because you are afraid of what comes after the release. And I am not shaming you for that. I am naming it so it cannot keep naming you. And I need you to understand this with your whole body, not just your theology. I do not measure your faith by how long you endure what I never assigned. I do not call you faithful because you stayed where I said, move. I do not call you loyal because you kept bleeding and called it love. There are burdens I ordained, and there are burdens you picked up because you were afraid to disappoint people, afraid to start over, afraid to admit the season changed. But I am not impressed by self-sacrifice that disobeys my voice. I am protective, not performative. I am a father, not an audience. So yes, releasing can be holy even when it hurts. Grief does not mean you missed me. Tears do not mean you failed. Sometimes the most obedient thing you will ever do is let your heart break open and still walk forward. Sometimes the proof that I am leading you is that you can feel the ache and you do not run back to numb it. You can mourn what was real and still release what is no longer right. And this is what I am asking of you next. Do not force closure by willpower alone. Do not try to rip the root out with human strength and then call that healing. The next step is discernment. Ask me what season this is. Ask me what this connection produces in you now, not what it produced then. Ask me if you are holding because I told you to hold, or because you are afraid of the quiet. I will not confuse you. I will not lead you late. You are not behind. You are being led. And when you release at the right time, it is not betrayal. It is obedience to season. Now let me show you how to discern without drowning in feelings, because you have been measuring this connection by intensity, by history, by how loudly it echoes in your body. But I do not ask you to judge it by how strong it feels. I ask you to test it by what it produces in you. Fruit does not need confusion to survive. What is from me can stand in the light and still remain holy. What is for you will not require you to become smaller in order to keep it. So look at the evidence. When you are connected to them, do you become more honest or more secretive? Do you walk in clarity or in constant interpretation? Does your spirit soften into humility and growth, or does your heart harden into performance and self-protection? Do you find yourself praying with freedom or praying in panic? Do you feel peace guarding you or anxiety driving you? Do you become more yourself, or do you start editing your own soul, watching your words, shrinking your needs, dimming your joy, negotiating your boundaries, as if love is something you must earn with silence? Because I see what you have been calling chemistry, and I tell you, beloved, chemistry is not always covenant. You call it chemistry, but it is often your nervous system recognizing a pattern, not your spirit recognizing a promise. It feels familiar because it is familiar. The same push and pull, the same inconsistency that keeps you alert, the same warmth that arrives just late enough to keep you hoping. And your body confuses relief with love. Because relief comes when the tension finally breaks. But that is not peace. That is withdrawal ending for a moment. That is a cycle training you to call survival connection. And this is why familiar pain can feel like comfort. The known wound feels safer than the unknown healing. At least in the familiar pain, you know your role. You know how to wait. You know how to fix. You know how to overgive. You know how to apologize for needs you never should have had to bury. But healing asks you to stand in quiet without a script. Healing asks you to receive without chasing. Healing asks you to be loved without proving. And that unknown can feel terrifying to the part of you that has lived on adrenaline for so long that calm feels empty. So I am giving you a simple test that will cut through the fog. After you engage with them, do you feel more aligned with me or more distant from me? After you talk, do you have more clarity or more questions that steal your sleep? After you leave their presence, do you feel strengthened to live your life or compelled to abandon it, checking, rereading, replaying, searching for hidden meanings like your stability depends on decoding them? The fruit will tell the truth. Your mouth keeps trying to soften. And once you see what it produces, you can stop arguing with my instruction to release, because you will realize I was not trying to deprive you. I was trying to protect you from becoming fluent in confusion. I was trying to save your peace before you forget what peace feels like. I was trying to save your identity before you finish shrinking into someone you do not recognize. Listen to me. Discernment is not condemnation. It is compassion with eyes open. And when you finally judge this connection by its fruit, you will understand why I have been saying, with a steady voice, let it go. And now I will take you to an altar you have tried to avoid, because this is where your argument finally runs out of words. There was a day I spoke to Abraham, and I asked him to lay down what looked like the promise itself. Isaac was not just a son. He was laughter after barrenness. He was proof after waiting. He was the evidence that I had spoken truly. And when I said, offer him, Abraham felt the same shock you feel when I tell you to release what you thought I gave you. But listen to me. I was never hungry for loss. I was never trying to empty Abraham's hands for sport. I was making trust visible. I was exposing what had quietly become untouchable. Because this is what happens to the human heart, even the faithful heart. You receive a gift, and over time you begin to protect it more than you protect my voice. You begin to serve it with your attention. You begin to measure your worth by whether it stays. You begin to fear its absence more than you fear disobedience. And without noticing, you turn the promise into a possession, and the possession into a god. Your Isaac may not be a child on a mountain. Your Isaac may be that relationship you keep calling meant to be, even though it keeps stealing your peace. Your Isaac may be a memory you rehearse like scripture because it is the only place you still feel chosen. Your Isaac may be a version of yourself who you were when they wanted you, when you felt desired, when you felt finally seen, and you keep chasing that version because you are afraid you will never feel that alive again. Your Isaac may be the need to be picked, the need to be pursued, the need to be proven worthy by someone who stays inconsistent enough to keep you working. And when I touch it, you say, but you gave it to me. And I say, beloved, I am not taking your promise. I am removing your idol. I am not tearing away what is mine to bless. I am breaking what has started to rule you. Because anything you cannot lay down has begun to own you. Anything you refuse to surrender has moved from gift to God. And that is why your chest tightens when I speak. Not because I am harsh, but because the attachment has built a throne inside you, and surrender feels like exile to the part of you that has been living there. So hear me. I ask you to lay it down so you can see what you truly trusted. Not what you preached, not what you posted, not what you told your friends. What you trusted when no one was watching and the night got quiet. Did you trust me, or did you trust the attachment? Did you trust my character, or did you trust their potential? Did you trust my timing, or did you trust your ability to hold on hard enough to keep what was slipping? And when you finally place it on the altar, when you stop gripping, stop chasing, stop bargaining, you will discover the difference between a gift and a god. If it was a gift, surrender will not destroy you. It will free you. If it was a god, surrender will feel like dying, because idols always demand your life as payment. But I am not leading you to death. I am leading you out of worshiping what cannot save you. I am leading you back to the only foundation that will not shift beneath your feet. Me. And on the other side of that altar, you will find what Abraham found, my provision, my voice, and the quiet certainty that you are held even when you are empty-handed. Now, beloved, before your feelings argue back, before the old pattern rushes in to negotiate, to spiritualize delay, to call obsession wisdom, I want you to do something small that breaks a big cycle. If this is speaking to your situation, do not scroll past your rescue. Do not treat my warning like background noise. This is not entertainment for your pain. This is intervention for your soul. Tap like is a quiet yes, not a performance, a marker, a line in the sand that says, I choose obedience over obsession. I choose peace over proximity. I choose truth over the familiar ache. Because sometimes the smallest act of agreement is the first crack in the prison door. Sometimes your thumb moves before your nervous system settles, and that is how you learn that you can move with me even while you tremble. And subscribe if you want messages that help you discern, release, and rebuild with me, because I am not only pulling you out, I am teaching you how to stay free. I am training your hearing. I am restoring your inner compass. And now, speak it where your own eyes will see it. Comment, I release what I can't carry, and I receive the future God is protecting. Let your mouth stop partnering with fear. Let your words go first, so your heart can follow. Because commitment comes before clarity, beloved. Your yes opens your ears. Your agreement interrupts the loop. And now we will go deeper. Now listen to me closely, because this is where your heart keeps misunderstanding my instruction. When I tell you to let go, you think I am asking you to forget. You think I am asking you to erase what mattered, to deny what you felt, to pretend you never loved. And that fear makes you tighten your grip because you believe surrender is betrayal. But I tell you, beloved, releasing is not amnesia. It is transferring the burden back to me. It is returning their weight to the only hands that can carry a human soul without crushing it. You were never designed to own what you love. You were designed to steward what I give you. To bless without bondage, to care without control. But somewhere along the way, love turned into responsibility you could not fulfill. You started carrying their moods like weather you had to predict. You started carrying their healing like a project you had to complete. You started carrying their choices like a verdict on your worth. And you called that devotion, but it was not devotion. It was ownership in disguise, an invisible contract that said, if I hold tightly enough, I can prevent loss. And that contract has been draining you in ways you have not even named. Surrender is this. You stop rehearsing control, and you start practicing trust. You stop running the same mental scripts at midnight, what you will say, what you will fix, how you will finally get the outcome that will let you breathe. And you begin to say, Father, I cannot carry what only you can govern. You do not have to stop loving to stop carrying. You do not have to harden your heart to loosen your hands. You simply have to let the weight shift. Because the moment you release the illusion of control, you make room for my peace to return. See it, beloved. Clenched fists, white knuckles, a grip so tight it bruises what it tries to keep. This is what anxiety does. It convinces you that love must be held like a hostage to survive. But open hands do not mean empty love. Open hands mean clean love. Love that is not strangled by fear. Love that can breathe. Love that says, I bless you, but I do not bow to you. I care, but I will not collapse. Open hands are not weakness, they are worship. They are the physical sermon of a soul that trusts me more than it trusts its own grasping. And I am telling you this now, because we are about to move from revelation into release. And to release, you must understand the mechanics. You cannot keep feeding what you are asking me to free you from. Attention is the fuel of attachment. What you stare at grows. What you revisit strengthens. What you rehearse gains authority. So when you say, I surrender, but you keep checking, keep scrolling, keep rereading, keep reliving, you are feeding the very thing you are trying to lay down. Beloved, I am not asking you to pretend it never mattered. I am asking you to stop paying with your peace to keep something alive that I have already told you to place back into my hands. And now I will be plain with you, because I love you too much to let you keep mistaking hunger for fate. What you keep feeding grows. What you keep watching strengthens. What you keep revisiting becomes a throne. Attention is not neutral, beloved. Attention is currency. And every time you pay it to what harms you, you are funding your own captivity while asking me to set you free. You say you have released them, but your fingers keep going back. You check their profile like it is a pulse you must monitor to feel safe. You reread old messages like scripture, searching for one more line that will resurrect hope. You retell the story again and again, not to heal, but to keep the attachment warm, keeping the ache alive so you don't have to face the quiet. You stalk what could have been, the imagined apology, the imagined future, the version of them that only existed on their best day. And every time you do, your nervous system learns the same lesson. This is where relief lives, but it is not relief. It is a false comfort that keeps you tethered to a door I already closed. Before you condemn your cravings, listen, your mind is begging for a false comfort. It is not because you are weak. It is because you are tired. It is because your inner world has been trained to reach for the familiar hit of connection, even when that connection costs you sleep, clarity, dignity, and peace. This is how bondage works. It does not always feel like chains. It feels like a habit you can't explain, a loop you call just checking, a small ritual you say you deserve. But I see the toll. I see how one glance becomes a spiral, how one memory becomes a flood, how one scroll becomes a night stolen from your future. So I am not only telling you to stop, I am teaching you to redirect. When the impulse rises, turn your attention toward truth. Speak my name out loud. Pray, not as performance, but as transfer. Father, I return this weight to you again. Text someone safe instead of searching their page. Put your body in motion. Open the word of life instead of opening the archive of old pain. Serve something bigger than your ache. Build what I told you to build. Because the soul does not heal by starvation alone. It heals by new nourishment. You replace the altar of obsession with an altar of presence. And yes, the protest will come. Your emotions will call it unbearable. Your body will reach for the old pattern like a hand reaching for a railing that is no longer there. That is not proof you made the wrong choice. That is proof the chain is breaking. The withdrawal is real, beloved, and I will meet you there. In the first empty minute, in the first quiet evening, in the first night you do not check. I will not abandon you in the space where the habit used to live. I will fill it with my peace, with my people, with purpose, with a future that cannot enter until you stop paying attention to what was draining you. And now you feel it, don't you? The moment you stop feeding it, the moment you finally close the tab, put the phone down, delete the thread, refuse the familiar ritual, something in you starts to ache like you are losing air. Your chest tightens. Your thoughts get loud. Your body searches the room for a door back into the old relief. And you whisper, maybe I made a mistake. Beloved, listen to me. The ache after release is not a sign you chose wrong. It is the nervous system grieving a God it used to serve. It is the soul learning how to live without a chain it confused for safety. I know it feels like panic. I know it feels like emptiness. I know it feels like you are being punished for obeying me. But this is not punishment. This is detox. This is the withdrawal of the soul. Because what you called connection was also a sedative. It kept you from feeling deeper grief. It kept you from meeting yourself. It kept you from hearing me without interference. And when the sedative is removed, everything you numbed rises like a tide. Not to drown you, to be seen, to be healed, to be released. There is a part of your psyche that mourns the old identity. The version of you who had a role, the fixer, the chaser, the one who waits, the one who tries harder, the one who earns love by overgiving. And there is a shadow in you, the hidden part you don't like to admit, exists that clings to what is familiar, even when it is harmful, because familiar pain feels controllable. That is why your mind reaches back. That is why you romanticize what wounded you. That is why your memory edits out the cost and keeps only the crumbs that made you feel alive. You think you miss them, but you are also grieving the structure you built around them. You are grieving the identity that had a mission. And when that mission ends, you feel unassigned, untethered, exposed. So hear me, and let this sentence land like a nail in the door you keep trying to reopen. This pain is not proof you need them. It is proof the bond was deeper than peace. It is proof you were attached to relief, attached to familiarity, attached to the illusion of control. It is proof that what you called love had begun to train you to abandon yourself. And now that you are not abandoning yourself, everything in you that benefited from the abandonment is protesting. This is the moment many return. Not because I was wrong, but because withdrawal can mimic destiny. The loneliness feels like a sign. The craving feels like a message. The silence feels like a verdict. And so you run back to the cage and call it closure, call it one last check, call it just to make sure. But I am telling you in advance, so you are not ambushed by your own chemistry. The first wave is not your future, it is your detox. Endure the wave without building a shrine to it. Let it pass without interpreting it as instruction. Stay with me in the discomfort. Breathe through the urge. Let the emptiness be empty without filling it with compromise. Because I am not only breaking the chain, I am rebuilding your inner world. And the pain you feel right now is not the sound of you losing love. It is the sound of bondage losing access. Now watch what happens next, because this is where the chain tries to reattach without you noticing. When the first wave passes and the silence returns, your mind begins to negotiate with what I have already answered. You call it wisdom, you call it timing, you call it being fair, but I call it bargaining. Maybe if I wait a little longer, maybe if I explain it differently, maybe if I'm softer, maybe if I'm stronger, maybe if I become more lovable, they will become more consistent. Maybe if I fix the one thing, the whole story will rewrite itself. Beloved, that is not faith. That is grief avoidance dressed in spiritual language. Because deep beneath your bargaining is a hidden hope you do not want to confess. You are trying to edit the past so you don't have to mourn it. You keep returning to the conversation in your head, not because there is new information, but because you are searching for a version where it ends without loss. You are trying to find the sentence that would have made them choose you, the perfect explanation that would have made them understand, the perfect patience that would have made them stay. And every time you do, you reopen the wound and call it processing. But you are not processing, you are rehearsing. You are paying attention to the door I told you to stop knocking on. Hear me, when I say release, I am not inviting a debate. I am not asking you to submit a counteroffer. I am not looking for you to bargain your way back into bondage by calling it hope. When you keep negotiating, you delay healing and call it hope. And the delay feels safer than the death of the old dream. But it is still death by delay, beloved. You bleed slowly and convince yourself you are being loyal. Do not return to Egypt because the wilderness feels unfamiliar. Do not run back to what enslaved you simply because the open space feels too quiet. Egypt had structure, yes, but it also had chains. And the wilderness is not punishment, it is transition. It is where I detox you from dependence on what kept you small. It is where I teach your hands what to do when they are not gripping. It is where I prove that I can sustain you without the very thing you thought you needed to survive. So stop revisiting what I already exposed. Stop drafting messages you do not need to send. Stop building a courtroom in your mind where you argue your worth to someone who kept you in uncertainty. Stop calling one last time the thing that keeps becoming the next time. I have answered you, even if your feelings have not caught up to my voice. And here is the mercy hidden inside my command. When bargaining ends, grieving can finally begin. When you stop negotiating, you stop anesthetizing. And when you stop anesthetizing, the real sorrow rises not to destroy you, but to free you. Because grief is the doorway your soul has been avoiding. And on the other side of that doorway is clarity. On the other side is peace that does not depend on their response. On the other side is you, returning to yourself, no longer bribing pain to stay familiar. Come, beloved, let the bargaining die, let the grieving live, and let your freedom finally have room to breathe. Now let the grief rise, beloved. Do not be afraid of it. You have been trained to think that if you cry, you are collapsing. If you mourn, you are going backward. If you feel the loss, you must have made the wrong choice. But I tell you, grief is not disobedience. Grief is love learning a new shape. Tears can be holy, mourning can be faithful. There is a way to weep and still worship. There is a way to ache and still obey. There is a way to say, this mattered, without saying, this must return. You are not weak because it hurts. You are human, and you are ending something that lived inside your days, inside your imagination, inside your body's expectations. Of course, your chest feels heavy. Of course, your mind reaches for the old script. Of course, the silence feels loud. I am not offended by your sorrow. I am near to the brokenhearted, not annoyed with them. I count the tears you thought disqualified you. And I tell you, they are not evidence of rebellion. They are evidence that you truly loved, and you are brave enough to face what you once numbed. But hear me, because this is where discernment must stay awake. Grief releases, obsession recaptures. Grief tells the truth and lets it move through you. Obsession rewrites the truth so it can keep you tethered. Grief says, "It ended, and I will heal." Obsession says, "It could still be," and it keeps building an altar to fantasy. Grief honors what was without begging it to come back. Obsession keeps bargaining with the past, demanding that a memory become a future. And I am teaching you the difference, because I will not let you call a chain a process and stay bound in my name. So practice this with me, gently and decisively. Bless them without returning to them. Speak it with your own mouth. I bless you to become whole, but I release you from being my source. Release the outcome you keep trying to control. Father, I lay down the ending I wanted. I lay down the apology I demanded. I lay down the version of them I kept chasing. Forgive the debts, not because what happened was small, but because I refuse to let unpaid pain keep collecting interest in your spirit. I forgive what they could not give. I forgive the inconsistency. I forgive the confusion. I forgive the ways I abandoned myself to keep peace. And now, renounce the fantasies that keep you tied. The imagined message, the imagined return, the imagined day, they finally become safe enough to hold your heart. Fantasy feels like hope, but it often functions like a rope. Grieve, beloved. Let it be real. Let it be clean. Let it be moving forward, not circling back. And when the wave passes and you feel the space where the attachment used to live, do not panic and try to fill it with old noise. I do not leave that space empty. I meet you there. I will fill it with rest that does not depend on anyone's mood. I will fill it with identity that does not require permission. I will fill it with love that does not demand you disappear to be kept. Stay with me in the quiet. This is not the end of you. This is the beginning of your heart, learning how to be free. And now, in that quiet space where you thought nothing good could grow, I speak a promise over you that you have heard before but never dared to apply to this exact wound. Behold, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs forth. Do you not perceive it? I will make a way in the wilderness and rivers in the desert. Isaiah 43:19 is not poetry for your wall, beloved. It is direction for your feet. But hear me, new things require new hands. And I cannot place the new in hands still gripping the old. You keep asking me for tomorrow while clutching yesterday like proof of love. You keep praying for a new season while keeping your knuckles white around the last one. And you wonder why your chest stays tight, why your discernment stays cloudy, why you keep repeating patterns that you swore you outgrew. It is not because I am withholding. It is because your hands are occupied. You cannot carry the weight of what was and still receive what will be. You cannot hold the door I closed and also grasp the door I am opening. Not because I am harsh, but because you are human. Your soul has limits, and I will not let you break under the load of divided allegiance. Listen to me. I am not closing a door to punish you. I am redirecting you to preserve you. I am saving your peace, the kind that returns to your nights, that stops bracing for a text, that stops scanning the room for rejection. I am saving your discernment, the quiet inner knowing that no longer confuses intensity with intimacy or breadcrumbs with bread. I am saving your capacity for healthy love, the love that does not require you to shrink, perform, or disappear to be chosen. I am saving your purpose, the calling that has been waiting for you to stop spending your fire on what keeps you in circles. And I am saving something even deeper than your feelings. I am saving your identity, because there is a version of you that was slowly being negotiated away, a version of you that kept lowering your standards and calling it compassion, a version of you that kept accepting confusion and calling it being understanding, a version of you that was losing spiritual authority because you were constantly seeking permission from what could not cover you. Beloved, I am not merely separating you from a person, a pattern, a place. I am rescuing the part of you that knows me clearly. So perceive it. This is the new thing. You will love without fear. You will choose without panic. You will sleep without checking. You will hear my voice without the static of obsession. You will walk into rooms and not feel the old need to prove you are worthy to exist there. And when the moment comes, when the new path appears in what used to feel like wilderness, your hands must be free. Open them now, not because it didn't matter, but because it matters too much to let your future be purchased with your bondage. Beloved, I need you to understand something that you have been interpreting backwards. When I tell you to release, I am not only changing your surroundings, I am interrupting a slow disappearance. Because there is a way you have been fading, little by little, without calling it what it is. You called it being patient. You called it being understanding. You called it fighting for love. But I saw what it was doing to you in the secret places. How you started begging for what used to be basic. How you started shrinking so you would not be too much. How you started editing your honesty to keep someone comfortable who was not keeping you covered. I watched you compromise your own values in the name of keeping connection. I watched you tolerate small disrespect and tell yourself it was maturity. I watched you laugh off what wounded you so you wouldn't seem needy. I watched you accept confusion as normal, inconsistency as just their personality, and distance as something you had to earn your way out of. And the most dangerous part, beloved, was not even what they did, it was what you began to do to yourself. You began to betray your own discernment. You began to lose your spiritual sensitivity, because when a soul keeps overriding conviction, it eventually stops hearing it clearly. Not because I stopped speaking, but because you kept practicing disobedience in tiny ways until it felt like peace. And you wondered why you did not recognize yourself, why your prayers felt thin, why your joy felt far away, why you could sense me, yet you could not settle. Hear me. Only certain souls feel conviction at this level, because I refuse to let you settle into a life that requires your erosion. Many people can tolerate a dimming and call it normal, but I marked you. I love you too fiercely to let you become someone who survives by disappearing. The unrest you feel is not rejection, it is protection. It is my hand on your shoulder saying, come back to yourself, come back to me. I am restoring the you that existed before this bond blurred your boundaries. The you who could say no without a sermon. The you who did not need permission to be whole. The you who did not confuse intensity with intimacy, or attachment with assignment. I am resurrecting your voice. I am cleansing your desire. I am returning you to your original weight, your clarity, your dignity, your holy instincts. You are not too sensitive. You are alive. You are hearing me. And as your identity comes back into focus, understand this. Boundaries will no longer feel like aggression. They will feel like worship. Because when you close what I have told you to close, you are not being harsh. You are honoring what I am rebuilding. When you stop explaining yourself to what keeps demanding you shrink, you are not being prideful. You are protecting what I am restoring. This is not you becoming cold. This is you becoming free. This is you refusing to sacrifice your future on the altar of familiarity. And I will not only ask you to release, I will teach you how to stand clean and unashamed as the person you were before you started negotiating your worth. Now hear me, beloved, because this is where many of my chosen ones stumble. You think love means unlimited access. You think compassion means leaving the door cracked. You think forgiveness means you must remain reachable. But I did not call you to be endlessly available. I called you to be faithful. Boundaries are not a lack of love. They are the stewardship of love. They are how you protect what I am rebuilding in you. Access is not a human right to your life. It is not demanded by history, by chemistry, by guilt, or by a shared past. Access is earned by fruit, by consistency, by honor, by safety. And yes, you can bless them and still close the door. You can say, I want you well, without saying, you may keep wounding me. You can release them into my care without keeping yourself as their landing place. Some of you have called your lack of boundaries having a big heart, but I call it bleeding without discernment. A big heart without wisdom becomes a target, and I did not restore your identity just for you to hand it back to what trained you to disappear. So I will make this practical, because obedience must become embodied. For some of you, holiness will look like no contact, because every conversation reopens the wound, every reply restarts the cycle, every just checking in becomes another hook in your nervous system. For others, it will look like limited contact, clear times, clear topics, clear limits, and you do not break your own word to manage their emotions. For many of you, it will look like social media boundaries, unfollowing, muting, blocking, deleting threads, removing photos, because you cannot heal while you keep tending the shrine of what was. It will look like accountability, someone safe who knows your weak hours, someone who can hold your yes when your body starts bargaining. It will look like removing triggers, songs, places, late-night scrolling, the private rituals that keep the chain polished. And do not confuse firmness with revenge. I am not asking you to punish them. I am asking you to protect you. I am not asking you to hate. I am asking you to stop giving sacred access to what has not proven it can hold you with care. Boundaries without bitterness are possible, beloved. A closed door can be a holy answer, not a hardened heart. You can close the door with clean hands. You can walk away without cursing. You can say no without a speech. You can stop explaining yourself to what benefits from your confusion. And now we move from understanding into release. Because some doors do not close with insight alone, they close with a decision spoken in my presence. So get ready, beloved. In the next moment, I will lead you into a guided laying down. You will not only feel it, you will name it. You will return the weight to me with your own mouth, and as you speak, I will seal what you have been trying to keep open out of fear. Come, let your boundaries become worship. Let your no become protection. Let your closed door become peace. Now, beloved, do not rush. Come close. Let your shoulders drop. Let your jaw unclench. And if you cannot find the words, let my words carry you until your voice returns. I am here. I am not watching you from a distance. I am meeting you in the exact place where your hands keep tightening. Breathe and agree with me out loud if you can, or in the quiet of your chest if that is all you have. Father, I come to you as I am, not polished, not brave, not finished. I bring you the part of me that keeps trying to control what I cannot heal. I bring you the loop, the ache, the unanswered questions, the need to make it make sense. And I confess the truth without shame. I have been carrying what was never mine to manage. So now, in your presence, I lay it down. I release the person I keep trying to hold in my mind. I release the version of them I keep protecting, the version I keep chasing, the version that only existed in my longing. I release the memory that keeps replaying like a ritual. I release the fantasy that keeps whispering, maybe one day. I release the timeline I demanded. I release the outcome I tried to engineer. I release the need for closure that keeps me reaching back for one more conversation, one more explanation, one more sign. I do not need to touch the fire again to prove it burns. And I renounce what has masqueraded as love but has trained me into bondage. I renounce anxious attachment. I renounce checking, stalking, rereading, rehearsing, and returning. I renounce the private agreements I made with my own fear. If I keep watching, I will be safe. If I keep holding on, I will not be abandoned. Father, those are not vows of faith. They are chains, and by your strength, I break them. Now, Lord, replace what I release. Put your peace where my panic has lived. Put clarity where confusion has ruled. Put strength in my body for the withdrawal when my nerves protest, when my nights feel long, when my hands reach for the phone without thinking. Train my reflexes into holiness. Give me discernment to recognize temptation in spiritual clothing. When I want to relapse into contact, remind me of the cost. When I want to reopen what you closed, guard my mouth, guard my fingers, guard my imagination. Make obedience feel like shelter again. And seal this surrender, Father. Let this prayer become a boundary my heart can follow. Let my words mark the door. Let my spirit agree with heaven, even when my feelings argue back. I am not carrying them anymore. I return their weight to you. I return my life to you. And I receive the freedom you have been offering me all along. Now, beloved, stay with me, because what you have prayed, you will now speak. Now speak, beloved, because there are chains that do not fall off when you understand them, and do not loosen when you feel inspired. They break when you agree with me out loud. Your emotions have been leading you in circles, but your words can mark the boundary your emotions will eventually learn to respect. So do not whisper this like a wish. Say it like a decision. Say it like a door closing. Say it like a soul coming home. Declare peace over my panic, peace in my chest, peace in my nights, peace in my nervous system. I do not serve the urgent thought. I do not bow to the craving. I do not mistake anxiety for intuition. I receive the stillness of God, and I refuse the chaos that trained me to chase. And hear my refrain over you as you speak. I am not stealing your love. I am rescuing your future. I am not stealing your love. I am rescuing your future. Declare obedience over obsession, I will not check. I will not stalk. I will not reread. I will not rehearse what I already surrendered. I will not build an altar to a memory and call it healing. I will not return to the cage to prove I can escape it again. I choose the voice of God over the noise of attachment. I choose what is clean over what is familiar. And again, let this settle like protection, not punishment. I am not stealing your love. I am rescuing your future. Declare, future over familiarity. I will not sacrifice tomorrow to keep yesterday comfortable. I will not run back to what I outgrew because the open space feels quiet. I bless what was, but I do not live there. I honor what I learned, but I will not be ruled by what harmed me. The wilderness is not rejection, it is transition, and I am being led. I am not stuck. I am being separated for strength. And I say it again until your spirit believes it more than your longing. I am not stealing your love. I am rescuing your future. Declare, identity over approval. I am not defined by who chose me, who left me, who misunderstood me, or who could not hold me. I am not auditioning for love. I am not negotiating my worth. I am not performing for consistency. I belong to God. I am whole in Him. I am loved without proving. I am safe without chasing. I will not abandon myself to be accepted. I will not shrink to be kept. I will not confuse access with affection. I am not losing love. I am leaving bondage. And now, beloved, if you need the strength of agreement around you, seal it with community. Write it where you can see it, where darkness cannot edit it. I release and I receive. And make it specific. Say, I release bondage and I receive peace. Say, I release obsession and I receive clarity. Say, I release familiarity and I receive God's future. Let your sentence be your marker in the ground. Now, give me gratitude before the feelings try to argue back. Thank me for the door I closed. Thank me for the chain I broke. Thank me for the peace that is already moving into your mind like morning light. And as you stand here, with open hands and a steadier voice, I bless you. Peace for your nights, strength for your mornings, courage for your next step, and a clean, quiet confidence that you are not being punished, you are being protected. Beloved, stay here with me a moment longer. Do not rush back into noise just because the quiet feels unfamiliar. Let the stillness become proof that a chain has loosened. Let the calm feel strange, if it must. Healing often feels strange to the nervous system that learned to survive in urgency. And I speak over you now, not as a distant idea, but as a father who has watched every late night, every tight chest, every reaching hand. Peace for your nights. Peace that settles your mind when it tries to scroll for answers. Peace that guards your heart when memories try to reopen the door. Peace that keeps you from interpreting silence as danger. I bless you with sleep that is not interrupted by rehearsals, with a mind that is not held hostage by what if, with a heart that no longer confuses longing with instruction. I bless your mornings with strength, strength to get up without checking, strength to move through a day without hunting for their presence, strength to keep your word to me and to yourself. I restore your self-respect, the kind that makes you stand straighter without arrogance, the kind that says, I will not abandon myself again. I align your relationships. I bring the right people closer, and I create distance where confusion once lived. I place around you what is safe, consistent, nourishing. I renew your purpose, the part of you that has been waiting behind all that emotional labor, the part of you that has been trying to breathe while you carried what was never yours to carry. Now hear me, because commissioning is not just emotion, it is action. Within the next 24 hours, take one obedient step that matches your prayer. Delete the thread, remove the trigger. Unfollow, mute, block if you must. Clean the altar. If there is a song that keeps your wound open, remove it. If there is a photo that keeps your spirit bargaining, archive it. Tell one trusted person, hold my yes with me. Or write the release prayer again slowly, by hand, so your body learns what your spirit already chose. Do not wait for the perfect feeling. Obedience is how I carry you when feelings are loud. And when the ache rises, and it will, like waves, you will not interpret that ache as a sign you made the wrong choice. You will remember, withdrawal is not destiny. The longing will lessen. The obsession will quiet. The open space will stop terrifying you. And one day you will realize you went an entire hour, then an entire day, without reaching back for what once ruled you. That is not you becoming cold. That is you becoming free. That is obedience turning into relief. I am not leaving you in the empty space, beloved. I am meeting you there with new life. I will fill what you released with clarity. I will fill the quiet with direction. I will fill the gap with holy strength. And as you walk forward, let your life become a signal to the ones still trapped in the loop. There is a way out, and there is no shame in choosing peace. Stay with me, keep your hands open, and take your next step. And now do not keep this as a private moment you revisit only when you are trembling, beloved. Let what I have spoken over you become bread you break for someone else. Because there is someone in your world right now who is clinging to what is breaking them, calling it love, calling it loyalty, calling it hope, while their peace leaks out day by day. And I have positioned you, not to shame them, not to lecture them, but to gently free them. Share this with them. Be the voice that says, "You are not crazy. You are not weak. Your hands can open. Your future can be protected. You do not know how perfectly timed this will be, how one message can interrupt one late-night spiral, one relapse into contact, one more attempt to earn what should have been given freely." And if you want to stay anchored as I keep rebuilding your discernment, your boundaries, and your peace, then subscribe. Not because you need more noise, but because you need reinforcement, while the old patterns still whisper. Let these words meet you again before temptation does. Let truth arrive before your nervous system starts bargaining. And come closer. Do not hide in silence. Comment this, and let my people stand with you. My hands are open. My future is protected. Put it in the light. Mark the moment. Because agreement is not just between you and me. It is also the shield of community around you. And if you are choosing release as an act of faith today, like this video, let that simple act be your yes before your feelings argue back. Your response can become a lifeline for you and for someone you love.